Is a committee the best way to investigate reform, do you think? And I suppose, what went wrong with your proposal? Do you think you were perhaps being too vague?
No, I think actually the problem in the past is people have been too specific. I managed to get every single report that had ever been done on Tynwald in local authority reform, and they stretch all the way back to 1934. And most of those proposals, if you look at the actual proposals that came forward and then the debates, was they were far too specific about what they wanted to do and what they were looking at. That's why my motion was more generalised, to just look around the number, because I am aware the department's got other work streams going on. And I'm willing to give the Minister the benefit of the doubt. So let's see if something does actually happen. At the moment, I'm not convinced it will, because we've heard many, many times over the last 123, 124 years that things are going to happen and then nothing does. But let's see if the Minister and the department can actually come forward and deliver some real change, not just some tinkering around the edges.
So the jury's out in terms of what the government are going to do there, but in terms of your personal understanding, what's an ideal model for local government on the Isle of Man then?
Well, I know what you're hinting at, Ewan, and I've never hidden my views. I made it quite clear in the Tynwald debate. I said, let's get the elephant in the room out of the way straight away. I've always favoured the 5 authority model, the North, South, East, West and Douglas. Lots of members don't share that views. There's other members, like, for instance, my seconder, Mr Callister, who seconded my motion. He favours a model of either 13 or 9 authorities. And that is one of the reasons I deliberately in my motion did not try and enforce my view. If I'd wanted to enforce my view, my motion would have said a committee to look at the 5 authority model. I didn't want that. I wanted a committee that was genuine in looking at what was the best model for the island, not just trying to get my own way. And that's why I am disappointed the motion didn't succeed, because the whole point was it was supposed to be a genuine look at. And one of the most important things of that process would have been the involvement of local authorities themselves, actually listening to them and seeing what their views are and properly engaging with them. And as I said in the chamber, for those that do favour the status quo, they shouldn't be afraid of defending it, of coming before a committee and defending that.
Do you think larger bodies, like you've mentioned, you favour the 5, you're divided into 5 local authorities, do you think they deliver services with that kind of next door neighbour touch? Do you think that might go if you've got a kind of more of a top heavy kind of strategy for doing local authority reform?
No, I mean, you can look at the local authority model. I hate to always look across the water to the UK. There's not a lot I would copy from their model, but if you look at some of the local authorities there, they cover vast areas with populations much bigger than the island for one local authority. And some of them have urban centres, rural areas, all sorts. But because they work off a ward system with representatives in each of those areas, they manage to still keep their local connections to that particular area. And that's the way I would favour, if we were to move to larger authorities, that happening. So the parishes would become the wards. So you would still, Bride would still be returning local authority members, Ballaugh would still be returning them, Derby would still be returning them, but into a larger overall authority. And that's the model Garth's gone down. Laxey, Michael and Lonnan haven't disappeared, but they've become wards within a larger authority. And I haven't heard a massive amount of complaints that things have gone terribly wrong since Garth was created.
So your amendment was unsuccessful, but you're obviously passionate about this. What's your next action, really, with regards to this issue?
Well, one of the things the Minister said, which I was quite surprised at, where he said he was surprised, and the department was surprised to see the motion on the order paper. It's a view I've had for a long time. I said during the election I'd be likely to bring a motion forward on local authority reform. I've spent 10 years in this very studio. I think on pretty much every Sunday opinion I've ever done, it's come up. So I was quite surprised. The department was surprised. But just so there's no future surprises, I'll actually put it on the record now, if the Minister and the department is listening. And that is that next November, in a year's time, I'll bring the motion back if progress hasn't been made. And we'll have the vote again. And if that doesn't work, then the next November I'll bring it back. So we can have a sort of tradition established where Tynwald in November is local authority reform motion.